We are live of sorts. Happy Monday, everyone. Hope you're feeling suitably wonderful following a Norwich City Premier League victory. Welcome to this evening's live recording of the On the Ball podcast, which is, I'm sure, your staple Monday viewing, given that's when we do it. This is very exciting. We've got a win to talk about, which is obviously wonderful. I will show you who we've got on tonight. We've got Steve and Maddie, Mackenzie. There they are, looking resplendent. Oh, look at that, resplendent. We're gonna hit those guys once we get recording. Good evening to you, Simon. First in with the message. I don't know. We should probably give an award out for first message. I'm just going to share this on my Facebook feeds, as it's still the only way I know to do it, which is exciting. But once I've done that, we can get underway. Lots of lovely things to talk about tonight, of course, which is very exciting. Mostly a victory, loads of stuff in terms of the team, shapes and players and spellings and terrible jokes. We're going to have an absolute riot. Please do get your questions in. We'll make a call. As I said, normally we don't manage to get too many in, but we'll have a go tonight, just as a sort of a special one-off. We'll have a go at that. We're not going to be broadcasting the podcast live next week. I'm actually having a week off, which I hope is all right with everyone. Tough if it isn't. So Steve's going to host the pod, and they're going to record a nice audio one in the traditional format, and you'll be able to hear that on the normal podcast channel. So what I would say probably is, even if you're a regular watcher to this, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast with your usual podcast player of choice, and then you'll make sure that you can hear Steve's tone. So I think Ben Mounter's going to be back on the pod next week, as it's an audio one, so that's good. I'm still working on getting him getting him on the pod when we do it as a video, but I haven't quite managed that as yet. Silly old me has managed to post this recording to the wrong group, so I'm just going to delete that, because as much as Newsman Celtic are wonderful people, they probably don't want that in their group. It's just one of the glamorous things I have to do in my job. But I'm really looking forward to this podcast. So let's bring the energy. My buzzer's ready. Can you hear that? There we go. Buzzer's ready. That's my pre-buzzer talk test. Script's ready. We're here. Who got in the second message? Oh, Terry Westgate. Hello, Terry. Good evening to you. There you go. Look. Just checking that works as well. Oh, sorry, Noakes. Stephen Noakes, you're third. Close, though. And Paul's in Germany. Hello, Paul. Right, that's enough before we get stuck into that. Let's crack on with the pod, shall we? We'll do a Wits End at the end. If anyone has any topics they want, random topics for us to discuss in Wits End, do so, because the planning of that segment has gone downhill rapidly. So that would be grand. But I think if we're all good to go, let's get the branding up. Let's get ready. The guys are there. Script's there. Everything's here. I think we're ready. So I hope you enjoy this recording of the On the Ball podcast. I reckon we crack on, and we will see you, of course, as always, on the other side. Boom. Here we go. We've got a W, baby. Hello, all, and welcome to the 93rd edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that went for a tapas on Saturday night to celebrate. I'm Michael Bailey. I cover the Canaries for The Athletic, and I hope this finds you safe and well on the way. Who'd Adam and Idah'd it? Oh, that is terrible. Worst joke ever. No, not that one. We should have known to Mark Bowen. And here's to 4-4 fudging too. We'll work through all that and more with our guests this fine evening. They are Norwich number one chief at NCFCnumbers, also known as our very own Steve Sanders.
Good evening, Michael.
And joining us this evening, a long-come Norwich superstar and Barclay flag purveyor, Maddie Mackenzie.
Hi, Michael, and hi, Steve.
Hi, Maddie.
Oh, that's beautifully
nice.
done. Yes,
Can we all say? Yeah, I think we should start doing that. Should we all just say hello to each other?
I feel like that was
a nice thing to do. And hello to everyone watching.
Hello
Respect.
to everyone watching and to everyone listening as well. I'm pretty sure the day-to-day started off with that kind of a sketch, and I'm all up for that in that case, where we spend the first 5 minutes of the pod saying hello to each other. But of course, maybe that's less relevant when we've got a victory to talk about. So we've got to get going onto that, of course. But Steve, how are you?
Oh yeah, absolutely buzzing, to be honest. I know it's our third win, but it felt like the first two felt like they were kind of tied up with all the management stuff, with it being Farker's last game and Smith's first game. This just feels like we're savouring a win. So yeah, I've actually Saturday properly put me in a good mood after that. And then obviously your brilliant intro, like so many things to talk about there, but not enough time, like you say. Just I don't even know where to start.
Let me just try again. Who did Adam and Idah did it?
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I'm trying to say there, but it was poor execution, isn't it?
Got off to a shaky start, like Everton on Saturday, but then I think you pulled it back with the Mark Bowen gag. I like that one.
Thanks, Steve. I mean, the good thing about the podcast next week when you'll be hosting is that the intro will be significantly better because you write far better intros than me.
And I can redo it
Maddie,
if it all goes wrong.
Yeah, that as well. That's very true. Maddie, how are you? Welcome to the pod again. Second appearance, I think.
Yeah, second one. Well, I admire Steve for supporting you and backing you up on your intro. I'm not going to say the same thing, but nice try. It was entertaining.
I don't know. You try and ask people how they are, and they just come back with criticism. It's all right. We can take it. We can take it. Well, it's lovely to. It's got to be done. It's lovely to have you both on. We're all so excited because it's a victory. How often do we get to speak about a victory? So I tell you what, let's crack on immediately with our headline act sting. Sting means segment. And this segment is, of course, talking about 2 Premier League games that have taken place since the last podcast. And not only 2 Premier League games, 3 points. That is officially, if my maths is correct, more points than games, which is a remarkable thing. I don't think we've been able to say that very often in the past 6 years, if I'm honest. It didn't start, so well, maybe at West Ham, where Norwich lost 2-0, of course, thanks to 2 Jared Bowen goals. But wasn't so bad, I think, as a 90 minutes. It was just just not as good as West Ham. And, maybe Leeds have shown that they are better than West Ham. But anyway, doesn't matter because then Norwich followed up that tentative bright spark with a victory, 3 points against Everton at Carrow Road. And I think everyone who was there thoroughly enjoyed themselves on Saturday afternoon. What, Steve, have we learned about Norwich in this past week?
Wow, that's a tough question to start. I think we've learned a lot. I think we've learned that there is a system there that that we can succeed with, which I think we've probably struggled to find one all season. So maybe now we have one, possibly. I was trying to think of the last time we played a good 90, like before the Everton game. I was trying to think of the last time we played a good 90 minutes of football in the Premier League, like a proper good performance, first half, second half. I couldn't think of anything since like the Leicester 1-0 from 2 years ago. I don't really think we've had one this season. I think this Saturday was our best performance of the season for me, albeit against an Everton team who looked dreadful. We'll probably talk more about them, but they were set up completely wrong. And obviously we got that stroke of luck, which I think we've been waiting for a while with the own goal. And then there were some really excellent individual performances as well. And again, I'm sure we'll come on to it later, but Adam Idah was really, really good. I can't think of a better individual performance from any Norwich City player this season over 90 minutes. I thought he was absolutely fantastic on Saturday, everything he did. And we got the joy of the second goal was probably my favourite moment of the season so far. I think just the sheer release of that, like the first goal was a bit of a surprise, but the second goal, the way that Williams drove in to the Everton half and kind of the lead up to it, the fact that Idah looked like he kind of missed the chance, then it went in, and it coming so soon after the first goal just kind of reminded you of what Premier League football can be like. It was almost not quite at the same level, but when we went 2-0 up against Manchester City 2 years ago, and just that feeling of, hang on a minute, we might actually win this game. There's a genuine chance. We haven't just scored once, we've scored twice with 2 up, we might actually win. And they did really well to hold on as well. So I think, best performance of the season, best individual performance of the season, and best moment of the season for me. Saturday was an absolute joy. And I haven't touched on the West Ham game at all, and I don't care.
Doesn't matter. I mean, you could argue it does take Norwich 2 goals to win a Premier League game, but they're 100%. Whenever they've been ahead, Maddie, they've won a game. It's all it needs, isn't it? Just to take the lead.
Who cares how many goals it takes them? They did it. Frankly, I couldn't care about anything else as long as we come away from the 3 points and, we get the joy of, yes, sir, I can boogie, replacing Park Life as our win celebration music. Oh, my goodness. I mean, I completely agree with what Steve says about that second goal. The first one, there was a moment where if you look on the City view and you look back at the footage, I mean, I'm in the Barclay and everyone's just sort of stood around like, what do we do now? And I think the players had a moment of it as well, but they're like, where do I run to? What do I do? Has it gone in? Are we okay? Is it fine? And once we realised, I mean, personally, I just stood there like that for a good 30 seconds. I don't know what to do now. I don't know, what do we do? And then, for the second one, you couldn't hear the goal music. I mean, I love that goal music. It's like a Pavlovian reaction to hearing it. It's fantastic, but you couldn't hear it. We were losing our minds that much. And it was just so good for Idah, a kid who's really, he's tried over the last couple of seasons. And at times you've wondered, is it ever going to come good for him? And over the last couple of games, it looks like Dean Smith has found something in him, or he's found something in himself, or the formation. And, he's finally cracking on. So I think it was a release for him as much as it was a release for us, because, we've got the personal story of we've just watched our team have a torrid December, but it's a combination of what he's been working for the last couple of years. So that was the best atmosphere at Carrow Road I can remember for the last couple of years, probably since, the Man City game. It was just brilliant.
I mean, it's worth underlining the point Norwich have won as many home games under Dean Smith now as they did in their final 21 home games at Premier League level under Daniel Farke, I think, if I've remembered what I wrote down, probably in my piece on The Athletic. We should spend a little time talking about Adam Idah right now, I think, and just maybe bounce off each other, because where has this come from? That's obviously the big question. I mean, Dean Smith said he'd seen a bit of improvement in training, which is great. I look at the fact that he's playing in a partnership, which is something he did a lot coming up through the academy. So I feel like maybe there's a comfort in that position. But the thing that gets me, Steve, is it seems to be, the kind of the missing link in a way, because it just means that Norwich look more dynamic going forwards. It seems to free Teemu Pukki up a bit. It takes some of the goal scoring burden, if there was any, on Josh Sargent, and he can concentrate on maybe the dynamic elements of the game that are a strength for him and for Norwich at the moment. And then you've got Milo Rashica, who in that kind of a four can have a real impact. He's doing what we would hope he would do. So I mean, it's obviously not just all down to Adam Idah, but just the way he's going about things seems like a huge impact on things.
Yeah, I mean, I've already said I thought it was absolutely fantastic on Saturday. I think I guess we shouldn't expect him to be that good every single week, and he's not going to be. He's probably not going to get as easy a ride from centre halves as he got. He basically bullied Michael Keane, and I don't think he'll always find it that easy. But apart from obviously the 3 points themselves, the biggest positive for me was that, oh, hang on, this is like an extra weapon we've got in our side now. I'm kind of surprised at the level of, I suppose I'm surprised at how surprised people are, because this was only his 9th start for Norwich. So I know this is his 51st game, but even I haven't bothered to check the numbers on this. But I think if you actually boiled down the number of minutes he's played, it's probably not that many. And the chances he has had have been in cups, so with players around him that are not of great quality. Or I'm trying to think of other games he's featured in, but like Manchester United away, where he never really had any chance. And also he's kind of been as a replacement for Pukki, which he's just not that kind of centre forward. So I've seen people kind of before Saturday, not necessarily writing him off, but perhaps getting a bit more down on him than he deserves, because I don't think he has had a chance, not properly. And he's an Ireland international. He's got quite a lot of caps for Ireland. Farke, probably didn't give him as much of a chance as he could have had, but obviously rated him, and so does Dean Smith. So there's definitely a player in there, and I'm really excited to see what he can do for the next 17 games.
Yeah,
How many
or
we've got left?
years, maybe. Let's just go completely over the top.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a good point there as well that a lot of those performances came with him playing in a sort of a wider role, which I don't think he's ever. He's looked like he could do something there for a short stint, Maddie, but it never really looked like his natural position that he could play off the wing and come in and do stuff like that. So I don't think we ever really saw that. And I agree with Steve. I've always felt like there's a player there. The problem was that he just missed out on a lot of development over the last 12 months. Because of last season, it was absolutely ideal for him to have proven a point, and he just didn't get the chance through injury and all sorts of various reasons. I mean, he still scored at the end and scored at the beginning, but yeah, but it always felt like there was a player there. So I suppose maybe it's just taken him the first half of the season to get that out of his system, because it's been quite stark, the performance level there has been in these two games, I think.
Yeah, you're right. He's been stop-start, and obviously you have to take that into account. But I think what you've both been saying about the formation is right. He's much more used to this setup of bouncing off players, which he had in the youth system, and it shows that he's being more the player that we saw in the youth setup than perhaps the Idah we've seen, maybe for the Republic of Ireland. I've watched him a few times for Ireland, and I've thought his movement's not been fantastic for Ireland, and sometimes he gets caught out positionally. But when he's in that pair, and he was sort of working in a triad with Sargent and Pukki at the weekend, and I think that is really strong for him. I mean, he just seems to have that understanding with Pukki and with Sargent, and I think he was making Sargent a better player at the weekend as well, because, as you say, he's taking the burden off of him. And Josh Sargent is one of those people who looks so low on confidence at the moment. So if he can help out another striker rather than perhaps halving the goal burden between him and Pukki, that can only be good for him. I was quite surprised by how it affected Pukki's performance. I wasn't too impressed with him at the weekend. I thought he was a bit stuttery and a bit slow to take his chances, but Idah, I think, will help fire the two of them on if he can play in that triad. I mean, I was surprised. I think a lot of people were surprised that Dean Smith went with players who are essentially strikers, and he picked 3 of them in his starting 11. And, I think you said it's a case of, well, if we don't score goals now with this setup, when are we going to? This is a case of all-out attack, we have to score. But it worked so much better than I thought it would. So maybe we finally tapped into how Adam Idah can work in a team in the Premier League. And yeah, I mean, obviously, we can't expect him to score week in, week out, because, even Mo Salah doesn't do that. But if we can keep on finding out his best formation and, whether he's best at playing off the shoulder or whether he's best in a partnership or a 3, I think finally we're starting to see his potential come through, and that can only be a good thing for him and for us.
There's no doubt that Dean Smith is enjoying working with him and sees something in him, because he's sort of picking up on the fact that he's seeing that improvement and that they're still figuring out how to get the best from him. So I think that's exciting in itself, and something obviously Dean Smith enjoys doing. So that all bodes well. I suppose the wider then discussion off the back of Adam is the amount of times that managers come up with a formation through necessity or a plan through necessity because they're forced into that cul-de-sac, and then it works, and it's like, well, you're a genius, you've done that. And Dean Smith is playing 4-4-2, Steve, because he has got barely any central midfielders at the moment. But I mean, the fact they lost at West Ham 2-0, both those goals, wouldn't have really said either it came down to the formation or the way Norwich was set up or the protection that the midfield was giving. And there did seem a nice balance between Jakob Sorensen and Pierre Lesmelou on Saturday. But I suppose it does bode the question how bad were Everton. They did also play a 4-4-2. They did seem pretty... I mean, there's not many teams I watch and Norwich look physically more capable than the opposition, but they really did. And I suppose we could all be thankful that Richarlison didn't start the game, because he kind of threatened to change the dynamic of it.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of took the words out of my mouth there, really. I do rate Benitez as a manager, but I have no idea what that setup was about. I mean, like he must have known we were going to set up 4-4-2, right? So surely you pack the midfield and try and play us through midfield. And the other thing is, like, the centre forwards or the attacking players that our defence have struggled with generally have either got pace or kind of quite tricky players. I suppose you look at Bowen on Wednesday night. And he just took 2 lumps up there. I think Calvert-Lewin had he had something like 16 touches the whole game. He was barely involved, and Rondon is of a similar stature. So I have no idea why they kind of matched us up like for like. Had they played And I know they're not awash with players at the moment either. They've got injury issues, but I really, to play 4-4-2 against us seemed like a massive misstep to me. And I think when they brought Richarlison on, he went out wide on the left, and I think they'd looked better at that point. So for that reason, I am slightly reluctant to get too carried away with the system, because I would like to see how we get on against Watford, who will play 4-3-3, and where we will be outnumbered in midfield, and see what we do there. Maybe Idah might drop a little bit deeper for that game. But I mean, for what it was, I thought we did excellently, and I think it's no coincidence. I know Maddie's definitely going to talk Lungi, so I will kind of let her do that. I'll give her the stage for that. But I don't think it's a coincidence that we looked a lot more assured in midfield, with, I suppose, with the exception of Norman, probably our two most combative centre midfielders, who are more concerned with stopping the opposition playing than sort of starting attacks themselves.
Well, I mean, I have been saying I thought that was Jakob's best midfield performance in a Norwich shirt on Saturday,
and Les Malouz.
Probably, yeah. Well, yeah. Why not? What do you reckon, Maddie?
I'm trying to keep the smile off my face, but I can't help it. I know you've been somewhat critical of him in midfield and have suggested that he might be better at centre back. And to be honest, my assessment of him this season, I'd agree. I mean, he's played centre back at international level, and he has looked more comfortable there this season. He's sometimes looked out of his depth in midfield and a bit, almost slow or sluggish to react. But that was him on Saturday. That was what I wanted to see from him. And he worked so well with Les Malouz, who I wasn't expecting too much of, because he'd had some pretty poor performances in the last few games. But the two of them just seemed to work so well together. If that was a lineup built by necessity, as you say, we've lost Gilmore, we've lost McLean, we've lost Norman, we've lost Rupp. So those two have to come into midfield. He had no choice. But I think those were two players who were playing for their position in the starting 11, and I can't have any complaints with their performances. I mean, Lungi was topping the stats charts, most tackles, loads of interceptions. So, yeah, I'm glad that everyone's finally seeing the player in him that I know who he is. And I can only apologise for the amount of Sørensen questions that are going to come in the chat, because that is my niche, and I know Terry's about trying to goad me into talking about him as much as possible. So it's not the Lungi podcast, but I'll try my best to talk about other things. But if you get me going, I can't apologise.
Maybe you could start one though. You could start your own Lungi podcast. There might be a market for that.
No, because I'd just go on for hours. I'd kill off any subscribers that I started with.
You wouldn't need guests.
Japod Lungi Sørensen. There you go. It's all there for you. Or Jacob Lungi Poddensen. It's all there for you, really, Maddie.
Michael, no.
We might not mention him again tonight, after that. But I mean, I would say on Pierre. Pierre's an interesting player, because there's so much of him that I like, and it just so often doesn't seem to quite work. And so it was really nice to see him sort of knit it all together, because I think there is a lot to like there about what he's got. But again, go to Watford, powerful, strong midfield, because they ran through Norwich quite a bit at Carrow Road. It's going to be really interesting how they deal with it. But we'll talk about Watford in a bit, of course. One thing we should definitely flag up at West Ham was Max Aaron's 150th appearance. He's on 151 now, obviously, and I think Max has been playing pretty well recently. Did pick up an injury. It looked really bad, to be honest. He had to be carried off, and then he had crutches and a boot on the pitch at the full-time whistle. But I did see him walk off without any crutches, and I think without a boot. He just was sort of limping a bit, but he seemed okay. So I think they're quite hopeful about that one. And Dean Smith was quite hopeful about Brandon Williams as well. He was a bit concerned about Tim Krul, which would probably be a bit of a concern for everyone if he wasn't available for. And
that by the way, was a fantastic bit of goal and brave bit of goalkeeping, because that was at the very end of the game, wasn't it? Where I don't know if he grabbed it and I think was knocked over, and it was an obvious foul, but it was one of those where we were under the cosh and he kind of came for it and put his body on the line. So it would be a shame to miss him on the basis of that. But I guess if it helped preserve 2 points, then probably worth it.
Yeah, fair point.
He was right in front of me. We all thought he was messing about, because you know what he's like when he goes down. He just lays there, and it's sort of, you could feel the tension as everyone's like, "Oh, look at his face. he's not a happy bunny." So there was a hot moment where we're like, "Oh."
And we'd been doing that all half, really, haven't we? That was another thing, actually, is that there was a lot of I can't say the word, can I? But there was a lot of the dark arts in that second half, which we don't often show enough of. And I think we were rewarded with 7 minutes of injury time, which was not ideal. But I think we broke the game up really well, and that definitely helped.
Which ended up as 10, by the way. So I look forward to the next time Norwich, are chasing a game and the opposition are winding down the clock. I look forward to Norwich getting 10 minutes of added time to find an equaliser at the end of it. It'll be really exciting. Just a quick question. If Krul was out, would it still be Angus Gunn that you'd start with?
Yeah, I think so. But Michael McGovern being the other option?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go with Angus.
To be Angus, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Angus, okay.
I don't think you can spend, was it 5 million on a goalkeeper in the summer and then kind of get rid of him after, I don't know how many games he's played, but then after that say, sorry, your third choice now. I think he deserves more of a chance.
Buck your ideas up. I did say, I think last week, has a team ever improved their form thanks to a cup win? But ultimately
Maybe
Norwich have done that. So maybe this is it. Maybe this is the time. There is a piece on The Athletic that I wrote from the weekend, which did touch on. We'll get on to Watford, but did touch on the home form being crucial to Norwich staying up. And I think I found the games. I think I found the home game. I'm just going to look through my program. I think I found the home games.
Newcastle, Burnley,
yeah,
Brentford.
6 points, isn't it? Brentford, yeah, they're safe. What have they got to play for?
Yep, so that's 9 points.
That's 9 points already.
Okay, I'm struggling. I'm struggling now.
Palace, yeah, coming up on the 8th of February, so quite soon.
Man City as well.
Yeah, Man City. We normally get 3 points.
Man City, yeah.
And obviously, all of this means we have to win at Watford, obviously. So that would be 3 wins on the trot, maybe a draw against Man City. But there we go. If anyone wants a route to survival, I've just plotted it. And West Ham might be tired by the time they come to Carrow Road, and who knows what situation Spurs will be in. They won't have anything.
This is very England picking the easy route in the World Cup.
So I think, Liverpool away, that's going to be tricky. But there's no easy games in the Premier League. So,
but we are going to win all our home games from now on. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think a draw. I think what I've said is a draw against Manchester City. I think if we keep Chelsea down to 3, we'd probably be all right.
I forgot about Chelsea, yeah.
But I think we'll probably win the others by 2. Why not? And and then we'll be fine. It'll be away we go, right? It's not that it's gone to my head.
How many points do you think we're going to need? Like, I was trying to work out. I've sort of been not letting myself get my hopes up. You know what I mean? I just want to enjoy this win in isolation. And then what happens on Friday happens. But I'm starting to think maybe if we can get to like 34, will that be enough?
That's
my connection got a bit stuck there.
Pick up as many points as we got under Farke's season again, isn't it? What, 21 points away from that, yeah.
Yeah, but that feels like what we need. Yeah, sorry, my question, Michael, is will 34 points be enough? And Maddie says, yeah, that's what we got in the Farke season. It was 21, and that's what we'll need from now to the end of the season.
So at the end of Match of the Day 2 on Sunday, they played a montage of the Great Escapes, but they also, I think, tied that in around it probably being a historically low points tally to stay up. And I think the lowest was 34 points in that. So which I think was maybe West Brom when Norwich,
I think it was,
blew it against Fulham.
Yeah.
So maybe, essentially if Norwich can pick up 6 more wins, then don't laugh, Maddie.
Easy ask.
6 more wins. Well, I've already picked out 5. What more do they want? I've told them which games to win. It's all about focusing on the game. So yeah, I guess let's get to 30 points with a game or 2 left, and then away we go. Straightforward. All we need to do is win at Fulham on the last day of the season, and we'll be fine. Right. In that case, I was going to ask about the midfield, but maybe we won't do that because we know Maddie's going to want to play Jakob, and that's that really. So we'll see when all the other guys come back, but there should be a few players back by the time Norwich do play Palace. So that will be fun to see. In that case, I reckon we move things on to a little bit of this one. Yes, this is where the podders each get a window to bring up an issue they're struggling to let go. If they lose themselves for more than 30 seconds, then the buzzer will sound. Excuse me. And
is that a part of the buzzer? Are you going to cough after it as well?
And it's time to let go. I've been in my room and my throat's gone a bit tickly. So there we go. And when the buzzer sounds, it will be time to let go unless you just want to carry on, which is fine. Steve, do you want to go first this week?
Yeah, okay. I don't normally go first. I think I know what I want to talk about. So yeah, before Maddie gets the chance to steal it, let's get in there.
In that case, crack on, I reckon.
Okay, the thing I want to get off my chest is the ludicrous postponement of games that's been allowed to happen by the Premier League that is being royally exploited by some teams who will go unmentioned, but we know who they are. I see that Burnley Watford is in doubt tomorrow night, which would be highly frustrating. I know Burnley have few players available, but it's the excuse-laden culture that we're in the Premier League at the moment, where, you know, if you can field 11, I think you should go for it. And it also makes me think we didn't take advantage of it when we had the chance earlier in the season before Christmas.
I think the Villa game. It was just at the start of the. It was just at the start of the postponements, wasn't it? And I just think it was probably harder to get a game postponed at that point.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And it's us.
And it was us. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think we just sort of went? We wouldn't mind having it off.
Imagine, you know, they say no once, and we say that's okay. That's fine. Fine.
Shouldn't have asked. Really, shouldn't have asked.
Sorry.
Word has it, it took the Premier League a long time to get back to Norwich when they picked up the phone to ask for the game to be called off.
As in, by which time the game had already been played.
Yeah. Sorry, we missed your call. I hope the game went well. We probably wouldn't have let you postpone anyway. Great shout, Steve. The only thing is, you know, they're going to have to play the games at some point, and I think if I was the Premier League, I would probably start imposing on the games being played in, at the first available opportunity and screw it. But
I think they should just play them. Like, clubs have got youth teams, and I just think everyone's going to be affected by COVID at some point, and it's just bad luck. But it seems, it's the same with VAR now. You're not allowed to have bad luck. It's like that. If there's an excuse to be had, we have to eradicate that excuse. Everything has to be fair. Well, it's not going to be fair. And taking it back to Norwich, it just means that what would have been a difficult fixture for Watford to prepare for on Tuesday, they may now not have. And that kind of advantage we would have had has now been lost. So that's unfortunate.
Potentially. Although, is the game actually off yet?
No, but Burnley have asked to be off. So yeah, I'm getting my moan in early.
The interesting thing is what?
It's going to be. I mean, it has to be. It's Norwich luck.
Well, maybe. But the thing is, Watford are surely sitting there going, well, which game are we preparing for? I mean, at this rate, they're going to still end up going up to, but they might be up there now, presumably, because they're going to need to be in Burnley.
They don't have to agree to it, do they? It's just if the Premier League, because Spurs weren't happy when Arsenal.
No, it's just it's the Premier League's decision. So at the moment, if the Premier League haven't said it's off, then presumably right now both teams have to prepare as if it's on.
Yeah, if they travel and don't play, that's still pretty good for us, because that's still.
So I don't think
they're still doing their pre-match prep, so it could be worse.
And as Everton proved on Saturday, the fact you've had a full week to prepare for a game can really mean nothing over a team that played in midweek. So that's good. I'm all about the positivity. There's for 2 weeks on the trot, absolutely flying. Maddie, would you like a go?
Yeah, easy one for me.
Okay, well, when you're ready, away you go.
Okay, our number 19, it is Jakob, not Jacob, because he's Danish. It's Sørensen, not Sorensen, because, again, he's Danish. And Sørensen is spelt with a line through the O. It would be like spelling Maddie, Meddie, and pronouncing it Maddie. It's not the same letter. It's not just you've forgotten the line. It makes it a different letter. So it's Jakob Lungi Sørensen. You sort of don't pronounce the O. You don't pronounce the R as hard. But, I understand that for native English speakers, it's a bit difficult. But you can put the line through the O because that's his name.
Wow. Okay. I didn't know it was Sørensen. I don't know.
I've got the advantage that my mum speaks Danish. So when I had the questions, it's Sørensen. So, I mean, you could get away with sort of Sørensen, But yeah, he doesn't go for the hard R. But I can imagine it being like a Max Aaron situation, and that it's Max Aaron's, but Max just goes, "No, it's fine. It's Aaron's. It's fine. I'm not going to correct you." I can see Lungi being the type of guy who goes, "You can call me Jacob. It's okay. I'm not going to kick up a fuss."
I'm definitely Jakob. I've never really included the word lungi because it just seems like a word too many. And I like to think maybe people assume and know that I'm someone who's a strict purveyor in correct pronunciations from years of being butchered for saying Alec, and probably the first person in England to say Teemu Pukki. But I don't know if I can adjust to Sørensen.
One of the it might have been Charlton. I can't remember if it was Charlton or West Ham, but on a particular commentary that I was watching, they were calling him Sørensen, and I thought, oh, that's new. And normally, when a commentator goes for, we'll have to ask Stu about this, but when they go for a slightly, a new sounding version of a name that you think I haven't heard that it pronounced that way before, they're usually right. Like Greg Downs was with Max Aarons.
Yeah,
he was right all along.
He just
changed my life.
I'm pretty sure Trevor Booking,
but that is an incorrect pronunciation.
Difficult name to pronounce. Trevor Brooking once went on Match of the Day and started pronouncing Teddy Sheringham completely differently, and that's just Sheringham, surely.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I can get my head around this. Jakob Sørensen.
Get your mouth around it, really. I think that's.
You know what I'm like. I love without the hard R.
Now in the mirror, Sørensen.
Yeah. I'm a professional.
Every time he appears.
I was speaking to a former Norwich player who was doing some media duties recently, and he wanted to check how to pronounce Milot Rashica. So I sort of spelt it, and like it's an 8. I would say an H, and then an R, and then an I, and then an SH, and then an E, and then a T, an S, and an A. Rashica. So he was coming back going, all right, Rashica. I was like, well, I wouldn't, do that on live radio or telly because, that's probably going to go viral. But, so it's a minefield, really. But, okay, Jakob Sørensen. I'm all over it.
Brilliant.
There we go. Learn something new every day.
I feel so much better for that now. Get it off.
No, that's really good. And I think you were gonna because you were gonna call me up on that, weren't you?
Yeah, you never
Maddie.
spell his name right. It does my head in every time. Norwich have sort of started doing it right because on their graphics they always used to spell it without the line, and now that he's starting, they get it right. They don't do it when they actually talk about him, but in the graphics they do. And yeah, I mean, in your Athletic article, which was obviously brilliant, not only did you spell it without the line, you spelled it Son instead of Sen. And I know that.
No, that's just a spelling mistake.
But this is so petty, get a life. But as someone whose name is always spelt incorrectly, I feel a kinship with him over this.
Well,
it does my head in, but I imagine it doesn't bother him. But I'm bothered on his behalf.
The first thing I'm going to do after this podcast is go through the piece from Monday and make sure that Sørensen is corrected so it has an E. But what I would say, I've been scarred by the Athletic a little bit because when I went to Finland after he scored his hat trick, Teemu Pukki, and went and spoke to people who knew Teemu and had a fun in Finland. It was lovely. I wrote all the whole piece, and because I always loved writing Kimi Räikkönen because I could stick in all the umlauts. Are they?
Yeah.
And various other bits. So I did that on every Finnish word. To which the piece was sent back to me going, yeah, can you take all those out, please? We only use the English letters. So there we go. And that had taken me a great amount of time because you had to find the special characters. So that's why Sørensen's got a normal O in it. Sørensen.
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 It's your overlords. It's not you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I used to do that quite a lot. But in as a trade, I will now say Sørensen for forevermore. How about that?
What about
fair trade?
When you tweet the line up.
Okay, well, I didn't realize we were actually going to negotiate. Yeah, I will look for that. The only problem is then are there other ones where I also need to do it? Like, do I need to find a different C for Rashica? Maybe we should have this conversation later.
Yeah, I feel like we're getting into the weeds a little bit now.
Everyone is loving this, I'm sure.
I reckon you'll lapse into Sørensen again before the end of this pod.
How dare you?
I'm making a prediction. That's all I'm doing.
So well.
It took me 2 podcasts to get Aaron's. So you got to give me one podcast, and then we'll be all over Sørensen, which I will say repeatedly. Things we are not going to talk about, if I may. The world's worst joke. Now, this was on, and I've assumed it was the world's worst joke. This was on Match of the Day on Saturday, because I think Gary Lineker tried to make an either pronunciation joke. So we are stuck on this. He was trying to link Adam Idah to whether you pronounce the word either, as in E-I-T-H-E-I-E-R, whether you pronounce it either or either. So he was trying to make a joke that it Idah, I don't know. And everyone just thought that none of them knew how to pronounce his name. That's what I've assumed it was.
Can I
yes,
be honest?
yes.
I quite liked it.
Did you like it?
I thought it was quite good.
Really?
I'd never heard it before. Like I thought, oh, I'm surprised no one's ever. I've never heard that joke before. But
I just had such a Norwich reaction to it.
I suppose if Micah Richards is sitting there and laughs, he'll laugh at anything like it's hilarious. So that helped. But
hang on. Okay, so what was the actual joke then? As in how he delivered it?
I don't know. I'll get it horrendously wrong, but it was something like Adam Idah. Is it Idah? Is it Idah or Idah? Idah. It was something like that. But he did mean it like as a joke. It wasn't. He didn't know the name, right?
I'm still struggling to find that funny, but that's okay. Everyone's sense of humor is different.
Hey, we're easily pleased. As Wetness Jones says in the comments, Gary Lineker makes that joke and the BBC gets defunded the next day. So,
and he got called out by the club's Twitter, didn't he? Allegedly. Anyway, there we go. It was amusing. Onel Hernandez, he's now at Birmingham, having been at Middlesbrough. So I guess he's not going to be recalled. So we can end that conversation. Daniel Farke is now the head coach or manager. Haven't checked his exact job title at Krasnodar. Anyone excited about that?
Yeah,
that
was my initial reaction. Was it feels weird because we've never seen him with anyone else.
It's like he's finally moved on. It was different when he didn't have a job, and now he's got a job, and he's going to start saying, "Oh, my heart bleeds green and black," and I feel like I'm a real bull. When he starts doing that, I'll be gone. I'm still hung up.
You are all happy to move on yourselves, just as long as he didn't. Yep, understood.
Exactly.
That's grand. Yep, well done.
He can be happy, but I want him to wallow.
Michael, Tom Keynes in the comments has asked any City players you could see going to Krasnodar. 8:15 p.m. if you would like to get it up. It's right at the top. But yes, any City players, or I suppose maybe not necessarily City players, but perhaps former City players as well who might end up rocking up there.
I don't know. I guess they'd need quite a big budget. I mean, Krasnodar is not too far from Rostov, I noticed. So, Matthias Norman maybe next summer might get a gig if Daniel's a big fan. But I would imagine Matthias might want to stay in the Premier League.
Are they fifth in the Russian league, or finished fifth last season? Or
I think they're in their winter break at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah. But I think I'd heard they were fifth, so they're doing pretty well. It seems like a good gig for him. Like
they've been in Europe recently, haven't they?
Yeah. That strikes me as a really good move for him to sort of prove himself at a higher level in terms of European football and things like that. We're not going to get into the semantics as to where the Russian league stands compared to where Norwich are. But yeah, I don't know really. It's a really hard. I mean, there might be some people in Jet, but I mean, is Moritz Leitner going to suddenly disappear off to Krasnodar? It seems unlikely, doesn't it?
I think of all the players he might take with him, Leitner's probably not high on the list.
I always think it's a good barometer, isn't it, of who he really rated will be who Krasnodar now get linked with. Because if it's none of them, then he's like, nah, none of you are good enough for this, for this level, which is fair enough, isn't it? I suppose. Right, I think I've mopped up everything there. So in that case, I reckon it's probably time for our halftime sting. So we're not going to have any centrefold this week. It's been quite a quiet week, really, which I suppose is probably because there was a midweek game, which we've obviously already discussed. So in that case, I reckon we can probably have a little switch across to a little look ahead and a bit of this.
This is almost fantasy football.
Seeing as we've had a good old go at the postponed games. We don't know if Watford are going to play on Tuesday night at Burnley. Will make for an interesting dynamic if they do ahead of the game on Friday. I mean, in terms of what have Norwich got to win this game, Maddie? Is this like literally must win now?
Every time I've said it's must win this season, we've gone out and capitulated after 5 minutes. So I'm not going to put whatever that curse is. I think
that's not your fault. It's not your fault that has happened, Maddie.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. I needed to hear that. But it feels like we've been saying, that these are must-win games since like September. So I don't know at what point it really does become must-win or the season is over. But after we finally had the momentum, everyone's been saying for a month, 2 months, we need a spark, we need some momentum. Now we've had it. We're coming off the back of a cup win and a league win, and we've scored a goal. If we can't then take that momentum and turn it into something positive, at that point, that's when I'd really start to worry. If we take the momentum when we play well and, something goes against us, then we've still got the confidence. If we take the momentum and put in a Crystal Palace-esque performance, then I'd really be thinking we've got no chance here. Because if you can't capitalise on a result like Everton, then that's probably it for you. I don't see a point where we could then do something else that would make me think, we finally got a chance here. It's now or never for me for us to turn this momentum into something. And that might not happen against Watford, but I want to see the signs that we're continuing with the confident style of play.
Steve, there's still 4 teams in it, regardless of what happens. There'll be loads of points to play for. Surely it can't be all over if Norwich don't win or lose.
I mean, if they lose, then I wouldn't want to say it. I don't know. I don't know if it's must win, but a little bit like the Newcastle one, that felt like one that got away in the end. I do sort of think that there aren't going to be that many. There are a lot of games which I think we are just going to have to say, maybe not a lot, but there are a few games where you just would think, well, there's no chance of that. Watford is definitely one that we can win. And unfortunately, on the one hand, great, it's Watford. They're beatable. But on the other hand, it's Watford. And I think we've had our fingers burnt a few times now. My instinct is to fear the worst just because it's Watford, and I don't know if that's the wrong thing to do. But every time it's a new manager, and yet it's still the same result. It's 5 defeats in a row now. So, sorry, go on.
Well, but this time it's a new manager here, Steve. It's not a Daniel Farker issue. It's Dean Smith. I don't know what his record is against.
They lost
Watford.
at Watford on the first day of the season, I think.
For goodness sake!
They lost 3-2. Hate to bring that one up.
For about 3 seconds.
Yeah, sorry. I always feel like I do this in this section. It's always like, are we going to win? No. But actually, to counter what Maddie said, I actually because I was in the same boat around every must-win game. It felt like we've just blown it. But I thought Everton was must-win. I really thought we had to win that game, and we did. So maybe that's us turning a corner. We will have more confidence. I think we've really got to start well. I just feel like if it goes on for too long and it's 0-0, then I don't know. I could feel it slipping away from us. I think it would be, if we could get an early goal, that's going to, well, obviously it's going to help out massively, but I sort of feel like we need it. My gut feeling was that Watford were going to lose on Saturday and sack Ranieri before Burnley and us. But actually, presumably if that game does get called off, which we don't know if it will, then he'll still be in post. And I think that's a good thing, because I could have sort of seen them going, we desperately need a new manager, and them getting the usual bounce. But what normally happens is they beat us and then lose a couple and then sack their manager, because it's like, well, we've beaten Norwich, but we're still rubbish. So yeah, all in all, I have no idea what's going to happen.
This is I think the team talk writes itself for Friday. Like, that group of players have had to deal with even people who really, really want them to do well, just thinking none of them are good enough, and they're quite clearly going to get relegated. They're going to be live on the telly on a Friday night. All the football attention can be on them, whoever wants to pay attention to it. They've got such an opportunity to go and just shove it up everyone and produce something. And they all think they're capable. This is the thing. Everyone in the club, they're convinced that they are capable, that they can stay up, and they've got it in them. They feel that when they've fallen down and when they've slipped up, it's because of personnel. Certainly since Dean Smith has taken charge, because some of the other issues would have come down to shortcomings in the coaching. So, what an opportunity. I'm building up the positivity. I'm all about it. But what an opportunity for Norwich to go and do that. And likewise, personally, I think if they don't win, and certainly if they lose, I think they're screwed. I think that, and we can sit here and go, because people say it's must win, but there's still loads of games afterwards and what have you. But just to physically get to a position where you need the points, bear in mind that Watford would then be at least 4 points ahead and could have potentially already beaten Burnley by that point. Then it becomes very difficult. Also, a lot of the other teams have got games in hand. I mean, maybe Everton will get dragged into it, but I find that highly unlikely for a team that's never been relegated from the top flight or the Premier League.
Yeah, the Premier League. Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it's 3 from 4. I mean, the other thing is that obviously we're still sweating over a couple of injuries, but Dean Smith's not named an unchanged team yet. He's made so many changes. A lot of them enforced, obviously. I don't think even with Norman's not going to be ready, is he? So I say pick the same 11 if you can. I don't think there's any need to change that. I know we've talked about tactically it might need to be a little bit different, but I think that 11 played so well, there's really no need. And if you can start to get part of the problem is we haven't really known our best 11 all season. So if we can pick a similar team, get a decent result, get a decent performance, then that might help start to build a bit of momentum as well, looking a bit further ahead.
4-4 fudging 2 for you too, Maddie?
Yeah, I can't see any players who would need to drop out. I can't see anyone on the bench, with the exception of a fully fit Norman, if he were there, who would come in and be able to stake a place. So, I mean, we've got a comment saying, does McLean get back into the team for Friday if available, or would you stick with the same lineup? And I think McLean got a lot of comments on social media over the weekend, with a lot of people quite keen to pick up his shortcomings. And at the end of the day, that's a player who's almost undroppable in the eyes of 2 different managers. Both Daniel Farke and Dean Smith have consistently picked him in the Premier League, which is, obviously they see something in him that perhaps we don't see a lot of the time. But I think, I don't think you can make the argument that any of those 11 should drop out, with the exception of Tim Krul, who might have done his shoulder in. But I can't see how Kenny would improve that 11 against Watford, especially as we're going to need to be more defensive at times. And I think the Les Malou-Sørensen partnership really worked in that way. So I think if that team specifically has the motivation and the confidence, you drop one of them out after a performance like that, and they're going to be asking questions in themselves. So I'm happy with that 11, and I think a lot of Norwich fans would feel the same way.
It's interesting with Kenny. He's played before Saturday, he played every single minute in the Premier League since Man City away on the second game. So he's been one of the very, very few constants in this team. I'm more of a fan of McLean than most, but I think it is interesting that it's a small sample size of one game, but you take him out and we win. And I do think that having that more solid midfield massively helped us, particularly in the second half. So if it was up to me, I wouldn't have. I mean, there'll still be a place for him this season, and he will still start games this season for exactly the reason Maddie said. He's a really valued player for, I think, more than what we see on the pitch. But I wouldn't have him back in on Friday. It's not just.
I really liked him in the Premier League last time around. A lot of people didn't see what he offered the team, but I thought he was a real linchpin. Whereas this time around, I've been disappointed that, I mean, a lot of players haven't been able to live up to the very, very low bar we set that time around. But I think Kenny's been one that really surprised me. I expected him to sort of take that experience and come on and do even better this season, but I've been a little bit disappointed with his performances. So maybe having that competition, which he hasn't had, because as you say, he's been, he's played all of those minutes. Perhaps having that competition might egg him on, might enable him to raise his game and show that he can be, the Premier League player that he was a couple of seasons ago.
And sorry, just one more quick thing on McLean. I think part of the reason why he starts so often, particularly in the Premier League, is because of his height, and well, not necessarily his height, but the way he can win balls in the air. And he's quite often used as that aerial focal point when we need to go long, which we often do against teams that play a good press. I don't necessarily think with Idah and Sargent in both in the side that we need that anymore. So I think that's one of the kind of weapons of his game, I suppose, that is perhaps slightly negated by the current 11 that we're playing.
I mean, personally, I thought the way Norwich played, and they're sort of picking and choosing of when to go a bit longer and a bit more direct and turn Everton around. I didn't miss Kenny, and I didn't miss Billy Gilmore at any point. I didn't think any point in the 90 minutes I think Norwich could have done with either of those players in that scenario. And I guess that's, as we were saying earlier, the challenge for Jakob Sørensen and Pierre Lees-Melou. Lees-Melou, by the way. Pierre Lees-Melou.
Did you deliberately do a sort of comic French accent for that one?
No,
Lees-Melou.
That's how you... That's just French. That's just French, Steve. Pierre Lees-Melou.
Sorry, I got a C in my GCSE. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, Lees-Melou.
Thank you very much. You've shown me the way. You've shown me the way. Yeah. Well, I hope there's. I hope Hodgie's not listening. That's all I can say. To that. Those
at least I didn't do Billy Gilmore in a Scottish accent.
Yeah,
please, come on.
But yeah, so I can't remember what I was saying, but I'm sure it's a really important point. But it's up to Pierre and Jakob to prove that they can do it against a bigger, stronger, more powerful midfield against Watford, potentially. Let's see how we get on. I mean, at this point, I'd normally ask for a prediction, but I'm not going to do that because that's horrible. We've all said what we need to do. So there we go. And we've had some great messages. So let me just check through. Ones we maybe missed potentially. Oh yeah, let's go. B-Dog 5000, Norwich going down. Thanks for your comment, B-Dog. Great effort. Thanks for that. We should mention St. John Cooper. Hey, St. John, hope you're all well. Todd back on the bench. We haven't even mentioned that, and I feel like it'd be remiss if we didn't mention that.
Yeah.
So good to see Todd back in the squad and looking happy at the full-time whistle. He was looking very cheerful on the pitch, which was nice. Adam says 100% the same starting 11 for Watford. Terry Westgate agrees. Same 11 for me. Alex, Everton are due a relegation soon, though. It's a fair point. They have been badly managed for quite a long time. There's always one. They're no bigger than Aston Villa, are they?
No, but I think they will pick up a few wins now that Benitez has gone. Like, you could see there was a bit of quality there. I mean, we haven't even got into how bad some of those individual performances were. But just one from 8:17 quite early on. Craig Brooks says, "Hello all. If Norwich stay up, should we sign Brandon Williams for permanent, with reports saying United would take 15 mil, or at least should we try and get him on loan again? Best left back in a while, was immense on Saturday, OTBC." And we haven't really talked about Williams, actually. And I did think, obviously, Idah kind of took the headlines, but Williams was really excellent. And I think his move, there was a kind of neck and neck between him and Dimmy for a while, but I think he's moved ahead fairly considerably in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Yeah, I guess he has. I still feel like Dimmy's been a bit hard done by.
Well, Byram came on ahead of him as well, didn't he, on Saturday?
That's a good point. And then it was Dimmy who put in the block later on, although he admittedly gave, I can't remember whose shot it was, but he gave him a bit too much room before he threw in the block. I thought so. Yeah, I mean, Brandon hasn't really played in his proper position yet because he's a right back. So he's having to do it sort of a bit differently. I mean, if Norwich stay up, maybe it's a discussion point. I think it'd be a big decision for a Manchester lad currently at United to look somewhere else. I just haven't envisaged it being a discussion for now. So I don't know, but let's see if he's still playing this well come the end of the season. Because if he is, then Norwich are probably going to be in a better position, and then they'll probably have to try and find someone else, a left back maybe. I don't know. Come the summer anyway, because that probably sounds like how it's going to go. And I think we're done then, aren't we, for comments? I think that's probably it.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Wait, can we look at Toby Mills's comment from 9 minutes past 9? I think that's an important. I think that's an important thing to deal with, Michael.
Michael, this one?
Yes.
If we win on Friday, will you say Billy Gilmore and Kelly McLean in a Scottish accent every time you say their name next pod?
You're not actually on next pod, so there's a little get out.
No, that's true. But if we beat Watford in Watford, will I say Billy Gilmore and Kenny McLean in a Scottish accent every time I say them next pod? Yes, absolutely. That is 100% right up my street. Steve, you can hold me to that because I will forget. But I'm well up for that. I'm almost tempted to do it now, but I want Norwich to win a game, win the game, not a game anymore. Win the game at Watford before I do it. All right, then. On that note, and that exciting prospect, I reckon we're done for the 93rd edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that lives for a Friday night in Watford. If you're yet to do so, please make sure you subscribe via your podcast player of choice. The pod is available free for everyone on your usual player. And we also, of course, are streaming the podcast live, as you now know, on your preferred social media platform, I'm sure, unless it's Twitch. Make sure, though, you are subscribed to the audio version, because next week we won't be recording it live. So it will just be the audio version. If you don't want to miss it, make sure that you are subscribed to the On the Ball podcast on Spotify, Apple, or whatever other ones there are. Reviews and ratings are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or topic proposals, then sling me a direct message on Twitter at Michael J. Bailey is the handle. A big thank you to our wonderful guests this evening. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Michael. That was brilliant.
Wow.
Bit of Scottish.
Wow. That's a high bar. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to sound really offensive. You sounded Scottish. I'm just going to be offensive. Not deliberately. That's... Oh, dear.
All the more reason to tune in, folks.
Yeah.
Really want those 3 points. Really do now.
Let's hope Steve forgets. Maddie, thank you so much for joining us. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I did. I can't believe I have to follow Steve's sign-off now, because there's no way I'm attempting an accent. You know, it'll practically be a hate crime. So
Danish?
Yeah, I was going to say that. Can you sign off in Danish?
Absolutely not. I tried to get my mum in, she'd be well up for it, but no.
Surely all you have to say is Jakob Sørensen, and then you're away.
Yeah, people would be happy with that. So yeah, Jakob Sørensen. Give him a cheer for me next time you're at Carrow Road.
Love it. That's wonderful. It's been brilliant having you on, Maddie. I hope we get to do it again. We will be back next week for a fresh bout of Canaries Capers in another On the Ball podcast. Until then, never mind the danger. And we're clear. There we go. Steve, Maddie, all you Twittakers out there, welcome to Wits End. If any of you have stumbled across this for the first time and are wondering what on earth is going on and why the pod hasn't finished, listen to On the Ball podcast number 42, which went live on September the 8th, 2020. That must be the most, well, hopefully that's the most listened to podcast of all time. But maybe it's not. Anyway, it's all explained there. You can email this part of the podcast directly as well. So please do. Twittakers, Twitter, KERS @icloud.com. Or you can use the hashtag Twittakers on Twitter. Just don't explain what it refers to, because this is a secret club for only those who discover it. And I did have one tweet that I was just going to share. It was from a little while, but I'm still trying to catch up. Hence why there's no pun updates here. But the one tweet I have, which was here, and I appear to have lost the search, which is why I'm just stalling while I just find it. But it was from James Hotchkiss, and it simply said, Snowny Cotty.
Snowny Cotty. I mean,
that
was a long build up for that, and it I'm not sure
delivered.
It warranted how
Oh.
Well, can I, because you mentioned James Hotchkiss, and I feel like I've done the dirty on him. He did give us a comment at 8:22. Oh. Sorry for those listening. This is not great that we're just referring to random times.
No, it's the way I can find it though. 8:22. Give me a second.
He's given us a potential topic for Twittakers, and thank God he has as well. Thank you, James. After a long-awaited win, what superstitions do people have following that in the hope that it helps keep the run going? Same pair of socks (washed) at the next match for me.
What a brilliant question, James. Superb. I was always up for this. I mean, when I used to go, I used to buy a finger of fudge, or it was a chomp, but it used to change. So it would depend on the result. And then there was one period where I had to break the fudge in half before I opened it. And then I would have it at half time. So quite what that meant for the first half scoreline, I don't know. But what a weirdo. I mean, that is pretty...
Not
James,
weird, isn't it?
You. No, me.
Okay.
Yeah.
James taking enough stick for one pod.
James Bryan somewhere.
I mean, Maddie, do you have any superstitions?
Well, to be honest, I've written about this before, but I have OCD, so not to bring it down to a sour note, but the football is the one time where I try not to engage in any superstitions. But there are a lot of things that I did really differently this Saturday than I normally do. I mean, flag-wise, everything went really, really well. And I sort of was getting a good feeling about the football because the flags, I mean, you were with us, Michael, once, and you know, it never goes well. And it just, we were finished really early. We had to go outside and come back in again. Normally we just buzz ourselves in. And, you know, we were able to sit around the bar for ages. So I think one thing I'm going to do is try and make sure that we finish the flags before the turnstiles open, because we never do that. We did it and we won. And then another is when I'm doing flags, the flags are pretty grotty. You know, I mean, we don't like to say this too publicly, but they are gross. So you've got to wear, you know, your worst clothing possible. So I'm not wearing my brand spanking new Jakob Sørensen shirt to do the flags. So in the Barclay bar, I put my Sørensen shirt on over the t-shirt I was wearing rather than take the t-shirt off and go into the toilet to get changed. And I never do that. So I think next time it's going to be Sørensen shirt over dirty flag t-shirt, because I mean, we've reached a new height of fashion.
Can I ask what tends to go, like, what goes wrong when you're putting the flags out? What's like the worst thing that's happened, or is it just there's always something?
Back in the day, they used to not let us in. So I'm not sure whether it was Michael who was with us or Tom Smith who was with us, but we had someone with us and we showed them that we have to break into the stadium. So back when it wasn't as COVID secure, we just had to like pick the lock on the gate and break in and just start. And all the stewards were expecting us, but the club didn't know that we were having to break into the ground to get in. And so a lot of the times they're not expecting us. So we have to spend like 30 minutes getting, you know, regulated and stuff. And then there are a lot of problems to begin with the flags. You know, our flag cupboard, which is located in the men's toilets in the Barclay, which is delightful in itself, would often be locked. So we spent like half an hour chasing stewards around to try and get the keys, by which point everyone would be there. And I think this is when Michael was there that we got a surfer out, spent half an hour getting a surfer out, and it was either upside down or it was the wrong one.
It was the wrong way round. It was the wrong, or that might have been the wrong one. I can't
and we all just sort of went, and I had to go back and do it again. So yeah, things. I mean, I am now in charge of the flags, and that was my first game as head of flags for Along Come Norwich. So I think I'm heralding in the new era of flag success and football success. So now that I'm in charge, things aren't going to go wrong anymore.
This is brilliant.
They do look great.
Here. They do look great,
and I appreciate them even more now.
Exactly, and the surfers, I think, storing them so they weren't all wet and things like that was an issue in teams. We won't get stuck into all of this because
they're dead now.
We haven't seen the surfers. No, it's not really a COVID-friendly environment, I suppose.
It's not to do with COVID. It's the fact that for 18 months they were stored in a puddle. So one of them is mouldy. A couple of they're rotten. It's not fantastic. But yeah,
it's a shame. That is a big shame.
Kill me if I go too into the flag secrets.
Before he gets the chance, we have another superstition from Tom King. So make your way down to the bottom of the comments again, Michael.
Okay, I've got you.
Go on. I'll go. I have both a green pair and a yellow pair of boxers. I wear the greens the day before a game. I live in New Zealand. I don't know if that's relevant to what colour boxers you have to wear, but and the yellows whilst I watch the game in the wee small hours the following day. Oh, okay, so it's relevant then.
Yeah. Well, because he's wearing his green boxers during the day because he's got a full day before we kick off. Then he's getting ready for bed. He's going to get up at 2:00 or whatever to watch the game, and then he's in his yellows.
It was all added to the narrative. So
you called him out before you even finished reading it.
I know it's the worst. This is why I shouldn't be allowed to host these things. Maddie, really, I'm far too rude to the people that actually, contribute.
Absolutely.
We're sorry, Tom. It's important that we know where you live.
And it was a good superstition as well.
It was a brilliant one. I mean, I was on Football Focus on Saturday.
There we go. Do I have 1 hour and 8 minutes?
Oh my God, you on Football Focus?
Do I have to try it? Do I have to bring that? I mean, I didn't get paid to do it. Do I have to sort of? No, I need to organise them to be. I don't think they're going to want to be live there every home game. It's going to be very awkward. I think it's going to happen.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I tend to say yes whenever anyone asks me to do anything, if I can.
It's a true fact.
That is the first time I've been on Football Focus, though. It's quite exciting. I was genuinely excited. I've not been.
That seems like the sort of thing's right up your street.
And I met Conor McNamara, and he's a lovely guy. Looked exactly the same as someone I used to go to school with, which is a bit.
He doesn't look like I thought he would look. He's great though, isn't he? He's good.
He's got a very good beard. He's a handsome man, and lovely to speak to. So that was good. That was nice. Yeah. So there you go. I don't think that's going to work as a superstition, though. Norwich are going to have to come up with it themselves, I think.
What, Michael Bailey goes on Football Focus?
Yeah,
before...
I can't do that. I mean, that was a change in routine, but I can't do that now.
Yeah, I think the BBC would have to be ever so accommodating. Although if they're making that many cuts and you're going on for free, then maybe they will ask you more often. You never know.
Good point.
And
I think
Norwich
that's
is
probably
lovely. Who wouldn't
impressed.
want to come down and visit?
Exactly.
McNamara is probably having a jolly nice time here.
Yeah,
Although,
true.
I took a lovely break from flagging, to check Twitter. All of my tweets are Michael Bailey's on Football Focus. Michael Bailey's on Football Focus.
Yes. Well, all three of them. Let's move on from my appearance on Football Focus. Let's go. Ross has just thrown it. What's this? Do you still think Hanley should be dropped, MB? Did I say he should have been? Did I say that?
Do I remember you saying
When
it on
did I
this
say that?
podcast? Maybe you said it on Football Focus. That would have been bold.
No, I was suitably anodyne on Football Focus. No issues. Did I say that's straight? Oh, well,
You said you did.
Ross is saying yes.
Come on, Michael, you've got to back these opinions up.
Like
You know,
sausage,
but you
Ross,
definitely
what you
said.
I would need to, Ross, you're going to need to come back with when I said it and the context of which I said it, because I don't know if I'd have just generally said
No context,
Grant
just
Hanley
came out with it.
should be dropped. I know he's struggling with his shoulder at the moment, so he's having injections, and every time he goes down, he's sort of holding his shoulder. So I hope he's okay. But at the moment, I would say Hanley and Gibson are probably the best centre-back pairing. Ozan Kabak seems a little bit unruly at times, and Andrew Omobamidele isn't fit, and neither is Christoph Zimmermann. So
I would agree.
I maybe did like Jakob playing there, Jakob Sørensen, but maybe more in a 3. So
Yep, I agree. I think all the people having a go at Grant Hanley should lay off him. Michael.
Yeah. But I do say a lot, Ross. So I just please be gentle on with me if I've said something that didn't actually stick. Right. In that case, I can't think of anything else. Is there any other business?
I just wanted to ask a quick question, and this is a little bit of a, like your Football Focus clang drop. This is a bit like, so I had a £5 free bet, and I put it at the weekend, and I put it on 2-2. The game's finished 2-2.
Oh.
So I obviously I wanted, I didn't want us to concede, but I would have won £90 if we had, which would have been nice. So it's a nice consolation prize. So maybe one for next week. I'm not opening it up now because we've gone on for long enough. But has anyone ever massively profited from a goal that we've conceded or a defeat that we've had somehow because of a bet they've put on? I would be interested to know that because I reckon somebody must have done. We're not promoting gambling on this podcast, but
Absolutely not.
If there's any good stories out there, I would be genuinely interested to know because I do like that sort of thing.
Absolutely. And then how you reacted,
exactly.
Jumping in the Barclay going, yes, £7,000.
What amount of money would, if Norwich conceded a last minute equaliser, would you jump up in the lower end of the lower Barclay?
But this is the point.
Won 100 grand.
That is a brilliant question.
We can put a financial value on people's support of Norwich, can't we? Because there'll be a value where people go,
don't say that.
No,
The club will be all over it. You say things like that, I can hear Stuart Webber going like this somewhere.
It's all good money. It's all good money. I'm just going to round off with Ross Mastin, who comes back and says, enjoying the show. Thanks, Ross. Great to have you. And I think in that case, we're done. That is our Kenny Other Business. Please bet responsibly. And I think in that case, Steve, it's been a pleasure. Maddie, it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us both. And if I can ask everyone to say goodbye on 3, then we will say goodbye on 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
See, they absolutely nailed that. How about that? And with that, we are done. Remember to get in touch by sending a tweet with the hashtag Twittakers, or you can email us directly to Wits End with an email to Twittakers, Twitter, KERS at iCloud.com. Until next time, that's a wrap. And that really is the end of the podcast. It's the end of the recording. It's the end of our evenings. Hope you're all well. Hope you all enjoyed that. I did. That was excellent. And I hope everyone feels that we are making the most of this return to form of Norwich City. Watford on Friday. thanks for watching. I will be at Vicarage Road, of course, on Friday evenings. Keep an eye out for that. Stuff on The Athletic, obviously. Keep an eye out for that over on the app. And on the ball next week will be audio. So there'll be no live audio, no live on the ball recording. We'll do that in a fortnight's time when I'll be back. But Steve will do a masterful job next week. Absolutely sure. Make sure you subscribe to the audio version so you don't miss it. That is it. Have a lovely Monday evening. See you all very soon. And look after yourselves.